Welcome back, everyone. For today's video, we are going to be taking a look at the 13th round of the FIDE Canada's chess tournament being held here in Toronto. Now, yesterday was a rest day, and after winning 3 games in a row, I find myself tied for the lead with D. Gukesh from India and Jan Nepomniachtchi from Russia. Now, a big shout out goes to the scriptwriters. They created this great plot around the Canada's tournament, and sure enough, here at the end, all of the top players are playing against each other. So, today in the second to last round, I'm playing with the black piece against Jan. We are tied for the lead alongside Gukesh. Let's jump right into the action. So the game starts with the move e4. And now in this position, I play the move e5. You will notice that some of these arrows are back as per request. Knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5 from Jan, and now I play a6. Now, I suspect that Jan was expecting me to play the classic Berlin wall with knight to f6. He did win 2 games in this event already in the Berlin against Vidit Santosh Gujarati as well as Alireza Firouzja. So, I play the move a6 instead. We get bishop to a4, and now I play the move bishop c5. We get castles, and I play knight g7. Now, this is a system that some of the Indian players, like Praggnanandh, have played quite a bit, and I was kind of inspired by them before the event, so it is one of the lines that I looked at. And today, in my final black game of the tournament, I decide to use it. So now we get c3 from Jan. I play knight g6 here. We get d4, bishop to a7. All this pretty standard, by the way. Bishop g5, and I play the move f6. Now, f6, of course, is the only move in the position. If I do not play f6, I will lose either my queen or material like a pawn. If I go knight e7, white just takes his pawn. White's ahead by a pawn and doing very well. So I have to play f6, which is kind of annoying because it does create a little bit of a weakness, but because I'm able to castle on the next turn, it's not that big of a deal. We get bishop e3, I castle, Jan plays knight d2, I go king h8, and now he plays this move rook e1. Here I take on d4, and you're probably wondering, wait, why did you play this move king to h8? Now, the reason I played king h8 will be revealed in just a second, as after rook e1, pawn, takes, and d5. With my king on h8 here, after white takes the pawn, I can now recapture with my queen. If we go back to this position right here without king to h8, for example, let's just say I take right away, and we get this exact same position. If I go for the same idea with d5 here, after takes, queen d5 and bishop b3, it's spaghetti-o time, as I will lose my queen on d5. So, back to the game, we get king h8, rook e1, all the pieces come off, I play d5, takes, and now Jan plays this move knight e4. Now here, after a bit of a think, I play this move queen d8. One thing you'll notice is that much like earlier games in the tournament, I'm already ahead on the clock because this whole system with bishop c5 and knight g to e7 has come as a huge surprise. So, here I play this move queen d8, which is simply a mistake. Now, keep in mind, I am a mere 2800 level Moro player. I am not a computer, so I missed an opportunity to play this move b6 first. Now, b6 is a move that I kind of did consider briefly, but I was very concerned because after rook c1 here, you'll notice the pawns are a little bit loose here. And after queen to d8 and a move like bishop c6, rook b8, and say queen to a4, or even maybe queen h5, it just feels a little bit murky, and it's hard to judge what's going on due to a lack of development of the black pieces. So, I play the logical move here, which is queen to d8, and now Jan plays this move bishop c2, which the computer thinks is an error. Now, keep in mind the computer thinks that white should play d5 here, and the idea is actually quite thematic if you understand it, and the reason it's thematic is because here white has what we call an isolated pawn on d4. So with an isolated pawn, say white goes knight d2, and we get some position like this where I have the knight on d5, black is probably potentially a little bit better with the blockade of this pawn on d4. So, it would have made a lot of sense for Jan to play d5. After d5 and b6, white is better here, but I still don't think it's out of this world. Instead, Jan plays a human move, bishop to c2. And the idea is quite simple here. Jan wants to put pressure on this long diagonal. He wants to go for the attack with queen to h5. Here I play this move f5. And this is a very logical move too, because now if white moves the knight, you'll notice that this diagonal is kind of closed here. Bishop simply is lacking in scope on the diagonal. So after f5, Jan plays move knight c5, and now I play this move b6, and Jan goes knight to d3. Now, this move took me very much by surprise here. I was really expecting Jan to play knight e6, and after takes, I was going to play the move knight to f4, rook to e5, and queen d7, followed by rook to d8 or knight to g6 back to attack the rook. Now, computer saying is slightly wrong. It wants to move queen to g5 instead. Regardless, I don't think the position is that bad for black here. And one of the most important things about a position like this is that I have simple plans. I can go knight g6. I can play rook d8 and hit the pawn. White has to figure out what his plan is. Does he try to attack the pawn on f5? Does he try to double stack on the e file? What exactly is the theme? Now, for a computer, it's all very easy and it's not a big deal, but in a human game, a lot of these ideas are difficult to find, and I think in general, it's easier to play here as black. So, after b6, Jan shocks me by playing the move knight d3, and now I get bishop b7. Now, at this point during the game, I was actually starting to become a little bit optimistic about my chances, because now this pawn is blockaded, and on top of that, I have this really nice diagonal towards the pawn on g2, where the bishop is unimpeded, so it's always scoping this pawn. So Jan goes knight e5, I play queen to g5, going for the classic checkmate threat on g2 here, and Jan plays d5. Now here I play this move rook d8 after a very, very long think. I use nearly 27 minutes on this move. Now the reason I use so much time here is I was looking for a way to keep the game going rather than making a draw. I did consider knight f4, and I thought after g3, check, king g2, check, king g1, this is a repetition. It's one of several different possible repetitions, but white can also go king f1 here as well, and I wasn't really sure what's going on. Even though I'm up a pawn in the center of the board, white has his jumbo horse on e5. You can play bishop b3 here, trying to put pressure on the diagonal, and I simply wasn't sure what was going on. So instead, I play this move rook d8 after a very long think. Jan plays bishop b3 instantly, and I go c5. Now, if I had known that Jan was going to play this move knight f3, I probably would have blitzed out rook d8 in like 5 minutes instead of using 25 plus minutes. The reason I spent so much time is I was looking at knight f4, I was looking at rook d8, taking a rook e8. I was looking for a way to keep the game going, and so I ultimately decided to play this after a long think. Now, what I was expecting Jan to do here was for him to trade the knights on g6 and play something like, actually, sorry, not takes, take with a pawn and play something like rook to e6 here. And after b5, I think the game goes on and black has decent chances to maybe even be better with ideas like c4, creating a chain and going after the pawn on d5, which is currently protected by this bishop. But then Jan plays knight f3 very quickly, and at this point, I'm very upset because I've spent 25 minutes, and he's played a move that I'm not expecting, and it's a move that I think is not the correct move, but now I have 25 minutes less on the clock. So here I play this move queen h5, and the game ends in a repetition after we get these moves back and forth. Now, keep in mind, if I had 1 hour here, or even 50 minutes, if I had an extra 10 to 15 minutes, there's a very good chance that I would have played on with this move queen to h6 here. But the problem ultimately is that if I go queen h6, there are a few things. First of all, white can play this move a4 here. And after a move like knight to f4, for example, white can play something like queen c1. And after bishop takes d5, takes, and queen c4, white is hitting the knight, the rook, and the pawn. Even besides that, white also has something like knight to e5 here, threatening to go for knight f7 and an ice skater on the back rank with the fork as well. And it's just very, very hard to judge. On top of that, this position is a situation where it's much easier for white to play. White aims to go queen c4 or knight f7, and black has to come up with some plan to create threats. And with limited time on the clock, I thought there was a very good chance that I might even just outright blunder and lose the game, especially with no increment. So, if I had 25 minutes, there's a very good chance I would have played this move to try and go for b5 and c4. But with time getting very low here, ultimately I decided to make the repetition as I felt that tomorrow I'm going to have the white piece against D. Gukesh with a chance to win the tournament. Now, you could say, well, you should have played on here anyway. Obviously, in retrospect, we'll know whether this was the right decision or not the right decision. But in the heat of the moment, it did not feel right to gamble the whole tournament on this game right here. Now, you never know. Maybe after tomorrow, it will be a situation where I should have taken this chance and we'll know then. But in real time, it just did not feel like the moment to go for broke, which is why I chose not to do this. Now, again, obviously, there are many different situations here where I had many different options of what to do or not do. Ultimately, I chose not to play it, and that's just how it goes. I would also add for some background in general for everybody who's wondering, before the game started today, if you had told me that I was going to get a draw against Jan and have the white pieces tomorrow in the final round against D. Gukesh with a chance to win the tournament, I would have been happy. So with that in my mind as well, it simply did not seem like the right time to go for broke. Now, keep in mind, the games are still going, and obviously I can take a look at the games to get some idea of what we have here. It does not look completely clear-cut in general terms what's going to happen. It appears that Gukesh is very likely to win his game. Fabiano is also apparently much better in his game. I haven't actually looked at the position recently. It looks like Fabiano is going to win, so at the very least, we're going to have potentially a four-way tiebreaker at the top if Gukesh does not win his game against Ali Reza, assuming that Fabiano wins against Prak. Now, again, the games are still going. Who knows whether this was right or wrong, but it is what it is. And I felt that with the white piece tomorrow, and especially keeping in mind that in some of the recent terms, I've been in must-win situations with the white piece, it just did not feel right. Now, the most recent example of this was Norway chess last year when I had the white piece against Fabiano Caruana in the final game of the tournament. And I needed to win that game. If I drew that game, I would not have gotten first place. I had to win that game. I did win against Fabiano to win Norway chess. So I feel very at home, very comfortable with the current situation I'm in. Now, I'm going to work on the assumption that Gukesh will win his game, which means that I must win tomorrow in order to win the Canada's turn. But at any rate, I'm just glad to be in the situation where I have the chance, if I play one good game tomorrow, to win everything. So it's going to be a very exciting day tomorrow with round number 14. I will have the white piece against D. Gukesh, probably in a must-win situation. The other big game will be between Fabiano and, of course, Jan Nepomniachtchi. Both players will probably have the same score I do, but we'll all be half a point behind Gukesh. Of course, this could change if I'm wrong, but assuming Gukesh wins, there will be me, Nepo, and Fabi half point behind. I have white against Gukesh. Fabi is white against Nepo. So there are going to be a lot of fireworks tomorrow, and it's going to be an extremely exciting final day of the tournament. But we will have to wait and see what happens. Now, obviously, this is going to be my last video before I do a recap tomorrow after the final round. So, I'm in a good mood right now. We'll see if I'm in a good mood tomorrow. I'm not in a good mood based on the result. But before we get to that stage, I do once again want to thank everybody for all the love and support. I've said it many, many times, but you guys, the fans, make it all worthwhile. And I'm really trying to enjoy this experience, trying to give it my best. We have one more game to go. And if things break my way, I could potentially win the tournament. If they don't, I won't win, but regardless, I'm very happy with my result regardless. So, on that note, I hope you guys enjoyed this recap. I know this was a pretty light recap of the game between myself and Jan today, but I'm going to go rest up, get ready for the final game tomorrow when I play against Gukesh, and we'll see what happens. So, if you guys do like the content here on my channel, make sure that you smash that subscribe button below, and we will be back tomorrow on Super Sunday after the 14th and final round of the Canada's tournament when I play against D. Gukesh. So make sure to stay tuned for that recap. But for now, that's going to be it, and I'll see you guys all tomorrow. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Have a good one. Bye.